Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to our Thursday night call. This is our Thursday night Discover ASEA call, but this is a very, very special call that we have today. I am very grateful to be joined by ASEA founder, Tyler Norton. And I don't think, Tyler, you need a lot of introduction, but I will say, Tyler had a very successful career in the corporate, in the insurance world, uh, a strategic brilliant strategist like his father, learned a lot from Vertus Norton in strategy and has coached and consulted in strategy to companies all over the world. But we know him and love him best for being founder of ASEA. Tyler would say founder with a small f, and he would give the big F to his father, Vertus Norton, who we're going to just talk about briefly here in a second. But Tyler, thank you so much for joining us on the call. I can't think of a better way to kick off 2026, this very important year, this landmark year in ASEA, than having the founder of ASEA here with me on the call. So super grateful to you. And I know you've got grandkids in the house, which you love, who you love dearly. So this is
Yeah,
a big sacrifice to be talking
yeah.
to your ASEA family away from the Norton family. So really
Great.
grateful you've given up some time.
That's great. Thanks, Alan. Thrilled to be here and humbled by so many people that have joined from all over the world. What a treat.
Yeah, really cool. Well, Tyler, this call, I was doing some math, and I think if we combine your time and my time in ASEA,
Mm,
we're close to 34 years.
yeah,
I
we are.
think we're knocking on the door of 33, 34 years.
Yep.
So when it comes to what are we going to talk about today, what is this conversation with Tyler Norton? We could keep people here till midnight. And that would just be talking about the first 10 years.
Yeah,
That's not even getting into where we're going.
that's
But
right.
I did think it might be appropriate on this call to start just with a reflection of the past before we look into the future. And I wanted to just share a screen share here very quickly. Uh, I always like to finish my calls. Every Discover ASEA, I finish with this slide. And I do it as a mark of respect to your father and his incredible vision. And I'd like to touch on that. But it's also this phrase, because do you know when he said this? Was it about 10 years ago?
Yeah, probably 10 years plus.
Somewhere around 2015, 14, 15, 16. And he said, we're all at the start of something big with great purpose. And right now is the moment that we begin influencing the future. And I always say in the presentation, as truthful as those words were a decade ago, I believe they're even truer today than ever before. And so as I look at this, and of course, your sweet father, passed away in 2025. It's hard for me to look at this and not feel a little bit of emotion because of his vision and how it has impacted so many people's lives around the world. But could you just maybe, as we kick this call off, just with a little bit of reflection on Vertus, just his vision, his incredible vision of a saltwater product from Salt Lake City with molecules nobody had ever heard of that we're not making the sales because of the taste.
Yeah.
The incredible vision and perhaps even courage that it took for him to start ASEA as a network marketing company and take this product around the world. Maybe that would be a good place to start.
Yeah, thanks, Alan, for being so kind to call out my father. I've had some unique experiences even over the past 6 or 8 weeks. I've been going through really boxes of old family history. And I had this unique kind of guided experience where I went to a storage unit that we had of some things of dad's, and I just had this strong impression to dig in. And I found some old, if you can imagine, VHS tapes, and I got on Amazon. I ordered a VCR because I didn't have the ability to play these tapes. And I've probably spent 30 or 40 hours over the past month converting those analog tapes to digital. And I've found some footage of my dad all the way back to when I was born. I found several I've just found several pieces that I've never seen of my dad. And it was interesting because I was able to see a thread of my dad's optimism and belief all the way through. We had a joke when I was in college. He would say to me all the time, not to worry. He had a very calm sense of, not to worry. I know where we're headed. I know where this is going. And as I go back and I look back at all of these videos I found and these different family history moments, my dad's general disposition was positive, optimistic, and forward looking. And it was always this notion of not to worry.
Mm.
We have this, like we're going to do this. And so, to his credit, everlasting credit, he was the first to believe in what now really millions of people have had a chance to believe in. And it was that not to worry attitude that literally led to him saying, "Oh, we're going to do this for sure. And not only are we going to do it, it's going to be big and it's going to be successful." And it's been tender for me to go back and see that legacy in my dad. And now to know that he is in fact gone, it's kind of re-inspired me to say, keep moving forward no matter what. Keep moving forward because sometimes just the faith and confidence in the future. There's a lot of reasons I think we can all get a little concerned about the dynamics around us, but my dad never ever took counsel from fear.
Mm.
He never took counsel from fear. He always, always listened to where he was headed. And anytime I would bring something up that was fear based, he would say, not to worry, not to worry. And so I miss his confidence in my life. And I'm trying to mirror it now a little bit more consistently and not listen or take counsel from fear.
Yeah. I think it's fascinating when we do look back to the early days. And, it might be cool for everybody on here if you want to quickly type in, although I've just regretted saying this, starting this sentence, typing in the year you joined ASEA. It might be, or maybe, yeah, we can see them fly by there all over the place, 2019, 2020, 21. So we've got a whole gamut here from way in the early days, but it's fascinating. Somebody wrote today. Do you see that? I just saw
That's
today
cool.
flash by.
Yeah,
Hey,
that's
welcome to the Great ASEA Adventure. If today is your first day, it's a great day to join. Um, it's easy to forget what it was like in the early days.
mm,
And I sometimes I'll say to people, Tyler, we've spent 16 years laying the foundation for ASEA.
mm,
And people say, well, Alan, it doesn't take 16 years to lay the foundation of a company. And I go, well, it does when you have a technology the world has never seen before.
yeah.
They don't know what it is. You're even 10 to 15 years ahead of the scientists in the universities. It's
Mm,
only today they're getting biochemistry departments. It's only today they're getting these multi-million-dollar grants to study redox signaling. And when you understand, where your dad was in 2008, 2009, the again, the courage, not just the vision, but the courage that it was required, no fear, to say, we're doing this. We're doing this. It's easy to say today, we're doing this, but
yeah.
it was very, very different 16 years ago. Do you remember like those early days? You
Oh,
thought
yeah.
you were crazy, didn't you?
Yeah. I thought he was out of his mind. Um, but again, that's the miracle of it. To sit in various settings. It happens every year. I travel, I go to large group meetings, I see people from all over, all the different languages, all the different cultures, and I just marvel at the initiative and the vision, the commitment, the confidence, and the willingness just to go forward. And I absolutely thought he was out of his mind. To your earlier comments, it was hard to get our hands around the technology. And yet, you can't prevail for 15 to 16 years in a biotech space with the advent of AI, with so many ways to back into, if something's not truly substantive. It's just so incredible that he got it sooner. And to his credit, Alan, my dad is a puzzler. I've said this before, and he lives to figure things out to kind of, and he has really good sensory kind of instincts on something that was legit. And I remember so distinctly him saying, "Oh no, there's something very significant here. And he was almost kind of drawn into the curiosity of it, which is another great characteristic of his, this notion of like never stop learning, stay really curious. And so it's tender. It's tender to think about the years that we've gone through, and I appreciate you starting this entire call with a proper framing of what he did, because there is no ASEA without him for sure. And it's blessed your life, it's blessed my life, and thousands of other people. So I think often of him. I have his phone, his picture on my phone, and I've kept it here from the day of his funeral. I wake up each day and try to be mindful and grateful of who he is and was, and then try to do my best to emulate some of his great characteristics, which are many.
And true legacy is building something that goes beyond even our own lifespan. And we have now, entered that phase of ASEA being a legacy company as far as Virtus Norton is concerned. So, Tyler, as we look forward, you've got, I'll often reference, I think it was Schopenhauer, was he the philosopher that talked about truth going through three phases? First, it's ridiculed, people laugh at it, then it's opposed, and then it becomes self-evident. It's accepted as self-evident. And I think one of the exciting things really that's going on right now in ASEA is I look at us as traveling through the ridicule phases. I remember the ridicule phases. I remember the blogs that were written, people laughing about saltwater from Salt Lake City. And again, I think back to your dad and, a man of his, I mean, here he is, VP of strategy for Kraft Foods, running what, a $36 billion portfolio. I mean, very high up the corporate ladder.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing for people to laugh at little old me, a network marketer, but to laugh at your dad in a suit and tie, it takes incredible backbone. I mean, and courage and vision. Again, I just keep coming back to that to remember what it was like back in 2009. So we go through this ridicule phase, then we start getting some opposition. It's this product starts changing lives. People start trying to poke holes in us. But with the advent of universities getting these multi-million-dollar grants to study redox biochemistry, even Redox Gold, our latest product, is a collaboration between the University of Bath, the University of Western Sydney. It's this idea that universities are now reaching out to us saying, hey, we know what you've got. We're entering this third phase. Mm-hmm. And it's this phase of acceptance. It becomes accepted as self-evident. And it's so exciting to have been part of that journey, but it's so exciting to finally be at this phase. Because what I believe that allows us to do, and this is really what we want to spend the rest of our time talking about on this call, is we have been playing defense with the product for the last 16 years. We've been defending our technology. Oh, no, it's not a bottle of salt water. We don't have to play defense as much now. And now we've got some time and energy and focus to bring up the other side. And network marketing is two sides to one coin. You've got the product side and you've got the opportunity side. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really exciting now that there's a big event going on. January 24th, we launch the second chapter of ASEA. I literally feel like we are turning a page right now. We're right on that page turn, and we have about 2.5 weeks before the second chapter is right in front of us. And that second chapter is going to allow us to really start to strengthen the other side of the coin, to strengthen the opportunity story. And I call it bringing the opportunity story up to balance the product story. I use the analogy of rowing a boat. If the product arm's too strong, you're not going to go in a straight line. You're going to go in circles. It's really important to have the opportunity arm. So I'd love to spend really most of the time here remaining talking about opportunity and how ASEA is creating a really safe place for people that are looking. Our mission statement is to be a force for good in the world, to better people's lives and be a force for good in the world. For people that resonate with this, would-be entrepreneurs that want to make a living while making a difference, how this has become a very, very safe entrepreneurial venture for them and how we're strengthening that opportunity. So maybe we could just start with even the word opportunity. I know you love your words.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, you've heard me say this before. The etymology of the word open port, the idea that opportunity, when the tides were right and the circumstances are right, and a port could be approached, whether for commerce or conquest or anything in between. Opportunity was partly timing, partly being able to see that port was open, and then to seize that opportunity. Um, I think we're running into a time right now of increased uncertainty all around us. People don't know how to price the effects, for example, of AI.
Mm.
You're seeing a certain degree of increased geopolitical uncertainty, technology globally, and the role of technology in all sorts of strategic ways is creating a certain amount of uncertainty. People are trying to capitalize on what it could mean. But people are also kind of unsure where to, the idea of when I used to climb trees as a kid, what branch are you going to step on that's not going to break?
Mhm.
What branch can I trust so when I climb, I'm not finding myself at risk? And what I love about the where we're positioned right now is I really do feel more certainty about what this opportunity is and can be than I have ever felt before. Without any hyperbole, no exaggeration, there is more certainty in my heart and mind right now about what ASEA could be for the right people, for the entrepreneurial minded, at a time when the uncertainty in the backdrop, both market, industry, and broad view of where do I place my best efforts and energy? If I'm looking for additional income, if I'm looking for meaningful engagement in something that I can have a certain measure of confidence in, where do I sense and see that opportunity? And what I love about what's coming here in a couple of weeks is much has been done to increase the certainty that people can have of when you input certain activities and energy, you can have greater confidence and certainty in those outcomes from an opportunity standpoint. And I think we live in a world where that's going to become increasingly important to people. Um, and I know we're going to talk about this downstream, but opportunity right now, um, that's also very fluid. I think of it as wet paint. What is real? Where is real opportunity in this environment? Spoke to a young man recently finishing up his degree as a developer, and I asked him, I said, "So tell me what your thoughts are." I mean, that's a big changing landscape right now. How do you stay relevant, even though you have a degree now in the computer sciences? How do you stay relevant? And his exact words were, "I'm not sure."
Mhm.
That sense of I'm not even sure. We don't know where the chalk lines on the field of play are going to land. There are so many areas where people are trying to figure that out. I'm going to add, we see this, I see this in some areas where I offer some service. I'm starting to see jobs are changing. People are losing income, people are losing opportunities, long-standing careers and opportunities that have long been very, very steady branches to stand on and climbing are now in question. And I think what that represents for all of us is not only just an opportunity to take advantage of, but almost a little bit of a moral obligation too, to help people know that at a time when increased uncertainty is happening around us, people losing consistent, confident income, we're going to come to them with a story here that in a couple of weeks is not just it's not just an idea anymore. It's been 2 years of very careful vetting, and this opportunity will come to the front, and it will be as relevant as it's ever been, and as certain as it's ever been, just as the world around us is becoming more uncertain.
It's interesting, this idea when we first developed our compensation plan, it was 16 years ago. And when you think about how much has changed in 16 years, there's no such thing as an influencer 16 years ago. And it has changed so rapidly.
Yeah.
Things move so fast. And I look at this big shift, this second great chapter that I'm calling it, that starts January 24th with the rollout of ASEA One. And to me, Tyler, it represents three things. It represents a modernization of our opportunity, bringing us from 2009 to 2026. And
Mhm.
that's a big gap. As I said, a lot's changed in 16 years. It's also offering clarity, a really clear picture, a path for people to follow. You're much more likely to hit the target if you can see the target. And we're creating much more clarity of do this, get
Get
that.
that. Yeah.
The third thing is there is a considerable investment into this. And I can't think of anybody better to speak to this investment than yourself. Um, like when so many companies are maybe looking for a cheaper option, not necessarily a long-term option, but a cheaper option, ASEA is doubling down. You're leaning into your brand partners. And I love that change of name from associate to brand. I always felt associate was like I was joining a law company.
A law
You
firm.
know,
Yeah.
I love brand partner because we love the brand. We're so loyal to the brand, but there's this beautiful partnership with corporate, and it's a two-way street. It's a two-way part. You talk about a corporation being a corpus, the body. See, I do listen, Tyler. The
Yeah.
body, and if the heart and the brain start arguing, who's more important, you're in trouble. And so that idea of partnership is a beautiful idea. So can you talk to us, share a little bit about just the size of this investment, the significance of this investment from your perspective of leaning into the brand partners into the field?
Yeah. Well, first off, let's talk about a big word called disintermediation. And it sounds really fancy, but it just means most companies are trying to find a way how to disintermediate. That is to say, take out the middle person. And in most industries, that represents people like our brand partners saying, could we sell our products direct to a consumer? Is there a way to take that middle layer out, which of course represents cost, if you will, in the form of expenses to in commissions? Um, the beauty of where we are as an organization right now is we have absolutely no question, and I speak right now from a place of absolute purity of heart and belief. We have zero intention in investigating, exploring, or trying to meddle with how do we move this product into people's lives without our brand partners. In fact, there is no brand without the brand partnership. And we really feel that way. And so if you step back, and my dad used to tell me all the time, follow the dollar. He would say companies will stand up and extol some strategic disposition they have, but he would tell me, go pull their publicly published information and look at where they're spending their money. And particularly, he would make me index the P&L and look at it year over year. So whenever Dad and I were doing strategy or assessing competitors, he would try to get at least 3 to 5 years of historical P&L, profit and loss statements, so he could see as a percentage of their revenue, where are they spending their money? And when he would see an increase in a certain area on the P&L, he would say, look, strategy is nothing more than how you capitalize and leverage resource. If they're placing more resource here, it signals their strategy. Well, strategy has to lead to advantage. If it's well-placed resource attention, it has to prefigure an advantage. Otherwise, the idea of being a rational business person, you would say, why am I placing a resource on something that would otherwise be disadvantaged or neutral? And so he would say, Ty, follow the dollar, pull their information. Doesn't matter what they're saying, right? Doesn't matter what they're, I think of it as a say do continuum, where you say, okay, most organizations are on a continuum of say do. And when say and do get closer and closer together, you start to see a form of integrity that almost always foreshadows advantage and meaningful competitive advantage. Lots of organizations are perjuring themselves. They're saying they're committed to their field, for example, but if you follow their dollar, they're probably not. And we see a lot of evidence in the industry. We did a whole bunch of competitive framing to make sure our approach to aligned incentives, as embodied in ASEA One, would actually demonstrate, okay, this is a competitive advantage. And so I'm probably being a little too maybe philosophical about it, but this is the way my dad would teach me to think. He would say, follow the dollar and don't signal on the say do continuum that you're committed to the field unless you're actually doing it. And typically that's an indication of investment. For us, the changes happening in 2 months, without any question, are a multi-million dollar investment in every person that joined this call from all around the world. The idea that they can put in energy and effort and have that yield a result in economics to them and have that be more predictable to them is the investment we're making. And look, it's not hard to imagine, okay? If it's a balloon and you're squeezing the balloon and you're squeezing air from this side and popping up this side, well, something's contracted to allow that expansion. In the case of ASEA, we're making an investment that's coming from profit, which would otherwise go to shareholders and owners. And there's lots of shareholders and owners that would just say, let's just take the profits and continue to pad our pockets. We think this is a glorious time to be investing in people. The fatigue with all things artificial intelligence, incidentally, it's I don't even know if it's an oxymoron. It's just ridiculous that we're even talking about intelligence in artificial terms.
Yeah.
But the way people interact with a brand will want a partner because the way people are being invited to interact with brands is becoming less partnered with real and more artificial. And so we believe that there's going to be a massive renaissance and return to humanity, to relationships, to authentic interactions, which by the way, that's my AI is authentic interactions, not artificial intelligence. I think AI will dominate the future, and I think it's authentic interactions. And think about it this way: AI should be used to facilitate, never to replicate. AI should be used to facilitate, but not to replicate, particularly not to replicate humanity. And so, the idea. Oh, by the way, I just saw in the chat, I did say 2 months. I meant 2 weeks. Sorry about that. The idea here is where is the marketplace going? All of us are interacting differently with brands, right, than we ever have before. But with brand partners in a world of artificial, this is where authenticity will prevail. And I know you feel the same, Alan. We've talked a little bit about it.
Yeah, gosh, there's so much to unpack here just on what you've said. I think first of all, before we get into the AI, and I love your redefinition, authentic interaction. Everybody, every time they hear AI, we want to trigger that authentic interaction. That we want to replace artificial intelligence with authentic interactions. But just to go back to the investment, I hope everybody caught it. It's coming from shareholders' pockets. It's coming from Norton family. I mean, you don't like the light shone on you like this. I know you don't. So excuse me for making you feel a little uncomfortable just for a couple of seconds here. But this is money that should be dispersed to the owners of this company, of the major shareholders of this company. And you're saying, no, we're going to delay that. We're going to take that investment and we're going to put this very significant multi-million-dollar investment into our brand partners. So there is not one listener to this call that should have any doubt of how serious you are, how serious the company is, that we are going to become one of the greats in this network marketing industry. We're not here to play small. I said, when I received this beautiful award here in 2011, I think it was, I remember saying, I believe we will be one of the great companies. We will be a shining light on how this industry, on how a company should behave in this industry. And I think ASEA has done an amazing job of that over the last 16 years. But the truth is, and I don't mean to sound all salesy and hyperbole here, but I truly believe, given all of the ingredients, all of the combination of who we are, our birthright is to be one of the great billion-dollar companies in this industry. And I don't say that with hype. I say that matter of fact. I know how many zeros are in a billion. I hear a lot of people saying that and they don't know how many zeros are in a billion. I believe it is truly our birthright. And I think this very, very significant investment and this commitment and leaning into the field is going to begin that chapter that really begins our march to the 500,000,000 and beyond. And again, I don't say that with any hype. I say that as matter of fact as I can say it. I believe it is our birthright, Tyler.
Mhm.
Your thoughts on that?
Birthright's a beautiful way to think about it. I mean, I think it's funny you talk about shareholders, and the word that I hear is share. It's interesting. I just, as you were talking, I was like, that's interesting. You can pause sometimes, words can give you real interesting insights. And the idea of a shareholder deserving something, actually, the idea is to share that. And so I think that reinvesting these profits is maybe in a strange way the purest form of a shareholder. We're sharing,
Interesting. Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of a beautiful thought that just came to me as you were talking. So, no, look, I don't want to aggrandize anything we're doing uh, in any way that draws unnecessary attention to those moves. It's truly just a sincere belief in all of you. And I mean this really, really humbly and sincerely. We believe in our approach to sharing the impact of our product, right? There's the word share with and through brand partners. It's a partnership. It truly is two vital organs working together. And it's kind of like saying, could you disintermediate the lungs out of the body, right? Could you take the lungs out of the body and be more efficient? No, the answer is no. The most efficient, organizations have those two organs. And so I just want to say that, and incidentally, this is probably as much preference as it is principle. But from a preference perspective, the joy for me of the business comes through and with the people. And so to elevate and align incentives in a way that we've never done in the history of the company, it's never been done this way. To know that we took 2+ years working collaboratively with universities to get Redox Gold to the place where it is today. I think it's a good analog for what we've done with comp. It's taken us 2 to 2.5 years with outside insight, with good competitive intelligence, with all these things to say, you know what? It's time that we up level this opportunity to match where we've been with product advantage, which frankly, 15 years of meaningful, sustainable advantage, that's exactly what we said we would have 15 years ago. But I've never really felt like we had the combination lock right on all of the ways that you need to permute, the permutations of how do you make sure that the aligned incentives and recognition properly match the invested effort, whether it's binary imbalances or all these different nuances to our approach to compensation. Well, what's coming in 2 weeks, sorry, I said earlier 2 months, but what's coming in 2 weeks, is truly has the potential to change the playing field. We used to talk a lot when I would do strategy work about an uneven playing field. I had a buddy that would play football as a kid in back east, and they didn't have a flat place to play. So they would flip a coin, or they would do rock, scissors, paper to see who was going to kick off downhill. And he talked about just no matter what, the downhill team had the unfair advantage, and they'd have to wait till halftime and then switch sides. And he says it was invariant. Whoever had the downhill advantage offensively was going to win the game. And he was using that metaphor to say strategically an uneven playing field, is what companies try to create. We've always had an uneven playing field. We've had the downhill advantage on the product side. And we've tried to be true to the idea that we need to nurture the spirit of humanity that's always been really central to my hope. But to say now that we have the downhill advantage on the economic potential that this represents, right as uncertainty about continuity of employment is starting to emerge, it's kind of a compelling time to step back and say, wow, this deserves an increase of my attention and energy in 2026. I think it'll yield returns and dividends in a new way.
You know, we're talking about economics, we're talking about opportunity, we're talking about money, and I use this idea, Tyler, that you can look at every network marketing company again that is a combination of two sides. It's product and opportunity. That there's the 9 o'clock companies that are product, 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 product. Shh. don't talk about money, you know? And then there's the 3 o'clock companies that are all money, 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 money. It doesn't matter what the product is. And that's really the dark, seedy side of the industry. It's where some of the more unethical stuff lives. It's where Ponzi schemes and pyramid schemes grow out of. But there is a sweet spot, and it's noon. It's where you have this beautiful synergy, this homeostasis between your product and your opportunity. It's like rowing that boat again with both arms equally strong, or to be equally yoked, you know. And I wonder, could you address? And I'm kind of just throwing this at you, but the idea of money. I think a lot of times people are maybe attracted to ASEA. They see a product that can change lives. But a lot of people, through whatever reason, their upbringing, maybe their faith, that they have a bad relationship with money.
Mm-hmm.
They're maybe taught that money's the root of all evil, or the filthy rich. You know, we have these sayings that put making money or being very successful in an entrepreneurial venture. Maybe people struggle with that a little bit. Certainly in my coaching as a network marketing leader, I've had to unwrap a lot of this emotional baggage around money with some people.
Mm-hmm.
But we are going to start growing faster. We are going to see incomes grow here in ASEA. I guess just maybe a few words on maybe helping people with this idea of it's time the good people of the world started making more money than they need.
Yeah.
That's when you make a difference in the world.
Yeah, it's a good way to say it. I mean, when good people have more income, good things happen. I've been criticized over the years for being a little bit too diminishing of the economics. I think probably just because of the backdrop of the bad players in the industry that are over promoting, right, on that one side of the continuum. Um, at the same time, economics are a principle, and consistent, predictable economics strengthen relationships and they strengthen families. I mean, it doesn't take long. Go look at divorce statistics, go look at all sorts of dysfunction in homes and families. And you cannot dislocate the economic realities of a home and family, to say nothing of, charitable intent, doing good in a community. It's really, really hard to be mindful of that when you're really struggling to make ends meet. Um, you might find it interesting in my faith. I recently shot a survey out to our little congregation just to say what issues and concerns that they're seeing in their lives that we can be mindful of. In our it's a lay ministry. We all kind of help each other out. Financial dynamics were consistent, and I live in a reasonably affluent area, and I think the idea that, what good can people do when they can be less concerned on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis about continuity of predictable income? What good can come from that? And I think everybody has to manage the EP, ratio. You have to manage motive a little bit and be careful that you don't get overexcited about it. I once had a great leader tell me in businesses like these, it's impossible to overstate the potential economics. It's impossible. People would trade for your tax return. I know it, but it's very likely you can overemphasize it. I think what's happened in that messaging is perhaps it's been underemphasized. And by the way, that sounded very Irish of me, the way I just said that. It's been underemphasized. I think and now we've got to balance it out, and we've got to elevate that voicing so that the good people of the world can be confident when they're out doing something good and they have a good outcome that comes to them in the form of income. Well, that's a good thing.
No.
And I don't think we should hide behind that.
So, we have all sorts of ways to try and express this, making a living while making a difference, where the size of your commission check is a direct reflection of lives changed.
Yeah.
Sometimes I like to remind people that the ASEA dollars that you earn are some of the most valuable dollars you can earn because they represent lives changed,
Yeah.
in often very, very profound ways, often miraculous ways. And I guess I would just say to everybody, I would encourage everybody to maybe just dream a little bigger. Again, when the good people of the world have more money than they need, that's when good change can really start to happen. Yeah, it's a fascinating subject that we could dig a lot deeper into, but I hope our field will enjoy the move as we kind of move from a 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock to really find that sweet spot of noon. A statistic I read just along the lines of your survey, the average home goes into foreclosure because a family is $500 a month short every month. It's not
Wow.
that one month, it's every month. And
Yeah.
finally, it's just the straw that breaks the camel's back. And what happens when that family loses their home?
Yeah.
Now you've got the tension, you've got dysfunction, you've got divorce, you've got it's just this, it just snowballs out of control. And that's
Yeah.
$500 a month. And
Yeah.
again, when you have an opportunity where you can earn that income and beyond, but making a profound difference in people's lives at the same time, it's like, I don't know, where else would you go? What else would
Yeah.
you do?
And I think it's important to remember that, we've talked over the years a lot about conviction and the importance of conviction. Conviction in the product, but without the confidence that your efforts and energies will be remunerated, that's a big deal. And I think we've had an imbalance of conviction. We've had a high conviction around the product, which is all very founded. I mean, there's basis for that, right? But when people aren't confident that their efforts and energies to share that product will yield meaningful outcomes on the economic side, you have an impairment to conviction. Even though that you can still be 80%, 90% focused on the product's outcomes are real, but when you balance those and you get someone that can have a high sense of confidence of impact, high integrity, high impact product, married with high degree of confidence and conviction that the effort and energy is going to be remunerated, you now have the engine needed for faithful action, meaning faith being I have belief that I should act.
Yeah.
And this is where I think everybody on this call, and frankly others that might watch it ex post facto, now is the time to look really hard in the mirror on your degree of engagement. What is the engagement index and the action index of your life as it relates to this? New information gets priced into stocks every day. A company signs a long-term contract. There's a tax credit that gets issued at a state or federal level. I mean, the idea of perfect information, how it gets priced into opportunity is a really important thing. And when there's an insertion of new information and you don't properly look for, well, how do I price that new information, that new reality, you're going to miss an opportunity. And so seeing this for what it is, it's new information, it's certainty, and it's going to need to be met with a new degree of understanding, which will then yield conviction. And conviction precedes all meaningful action, period. People don't move unless they believe. And maybe some of you on this call have people that have gotten into the peaks and valleys, right, of belief. And this is one of those moments where it's a hard reboot on conviction right now. You need to kind of control alt delete anything in the past that's been a prevailing disposition and say, okay, I'm going to revisit this because there will be people, frankly, probably people we don't know yet, who won't have the baggage of those conviction journeys. And they'll come in and go, oh my goodness, this deserves the very best of my effort. And they'll blow past some of us that maybe will let the paint dry too long. And so this is wet paint, and it deserves to be looked at as wet paint. It's a meaningful to the studs remodel of this opportunity. It's not just cosmetic, paint and carpet. Like we tore the walls down and rebuilt this up. And that kind of remodel deserves like meaningful rethinking of how you live in that space because it's a completely new space.
Yeah, one of the first things that we tell people is if you want to move forward, don't bring the past with you. Don't drag it with you like the baggage on a Hawaii trip or something. You've got to let go of the past. The past doesn't equal the future, and I really believe that the growth that we're going to see here with this beautiful synergy of product and opportunity, the ASEA Redox with the ASEA One, that synergy of the two. Um, People are going to achieve things here that they possibly at this point maybe don't believe yet that they can achieve, but they're going to see the speed. They're going to see the speed of growth. And I would just encourage everybody, as I think you're saying, is reset.
Yeah.
Reset your belief, reset your
Well, and I'm going to say something that's going to maybe be a little controversial, but you know, uh, I hate to say this, why do we prune a tree? That's so counterintuitive, right? You spend all this energy on a fruit tree trying to get it to yield fruit, and then you come at a new season of growth, and you're invited to cut back first, such that the energy and the resources can get properly to yield greater fruit. And all I would say is this: be careful as you reapproach this opportunity. You should create choice point opportunities for people that maybe have been riding the clutch. You've probably heard me use that metaphor. Kind of RPMs have dropped, kind of push the clutch in, RPMs drop, not really gears meshed or engaged. I've found that quick choice point invitations, I'm talking like literally new information, make a decision. No is better than maybe, right? But instead of going back and trying to change the eye color of a whole group of people where that paint's dry, reintroduce them to the new information that deserves pricing. It deserves to be looked at again. Do it with a place of joy, conviction, excitement, and motivation, but then quickly start to recruit new talent into this. That
yeah.
all because we absolutely knew that we're not just doing this for the people that you know now and all of you that are here now. We're doing this to give you something so much more exciting to go out and talk to new people about so that you can infuse new energy. And that might require a little bit of pruning, not of people. People can stay involved with this for the social benefits of it all they want. But in terms of really productive engagement participants, this engagement index, I've always learned in my career that I could recruit my way out of. I've been in this form of distribution, what I would call commission distribution, for decades, for almost gosh, I'm getting old, like probably 3.5 decades, like literally since my early 20s.
Mhm.
What I've learned though is there comes a time when new energy, new recruiting, finding new talent, right, that comes at this and doesn't come at it with all the jaundice and all the different views. They just are so excited. So go forward and invite people to engage. If they don't engage, invite them to a no, not a maybe,
Yeah.
and then let them know that you're really going after a whole new wave of excitement and energy. It's amazing what you can do with new talent that's excited, that wants to be fruitful, wants to be positive. And sometimes it takes a little bit of pruning to get more fruit out of the tree.
It's interesting. The frequency of calls that I've done, very often, if there's an experienced network marketer in the field, sometimes I'll be brought in to do that three-way call, kind of as the old ASEA dinosaur. They bring me in to do that call to share a little bit about where we've come from and where we're going. The frequency of those calls and the caliber of people that I am talking to over
Mm,
the last, I'm going to say 4 to 8 weeks,
mm,
it's in a totally different space. I
mm.
mean, the world is beginning to hear we've been the best kept secret in the network marketing arena. I mean, we've achieved incredible things. I don't know. I mean, we're like, what is it, 1.7, maybe 1.8 billion in cumulative sales since we started. I mean, done amazing things. And we've done it kind of on the down low because it's all been product focused.
Mhm.
And the word is getting out that this second great chapter of ASEA is beginning. And I would just echo that there's going to be a whole new family of people joining the ASEA family.
Mhm.
And the response is they're looking at it. And so, Tyler, I call it the 5 Ps of an opportunity. You've got
Mm.
the product. What's the value that you're bringing to the marketplace? You've got the people, which is the company. And I want to touch on that just a little bit about some of the new talent. But then you've got the plan. That's the ASEA One. You've got positioning. We're 16 years, foundation, rock solid, debt free, just about to launch the second chapter of ASEA, the biggest chapter. And then you've got the partners, and that's the people that we deal with, your upline, your sponsor, that diamond team that you work with. And I think we've got a great integrity and principles that we teach through the field as well. Um, and people are looking at it and going, this is incredible.
Mhm.
I didn't know that this could exist, that a company could have like check boxes against every single one of these items. But we're not going to remain the best kept secret forever. And just the frequency of these calls that I'm making to high level networkers has been It's been really encouraging. It's a sign of what's to come.
I think, I think just like companies engineer chapter changes like this, I think it gets more meaningful and exciting to me when an individual armed with a new sense of conviction and belief starts to believe enough again in thinking about their next chapter.
Yeah.
And I have to go back to where we started, to my dad at 69 years old. And you've heard me say many times, and this is a very, very true thing. Dad, happiest 10 years of your life, age 70 to 80. And and did dad have aches and pains and health challenges throughout his life of his own, kind? Sure. But just the relationship, the richness of relationships, the greatest value that will come from all of this. And you're going to have to forgive me, Alan, I'm not diminishing the economics, but the greatest value will be the richness in new relationships, because the joy of ASEA is authentic interaction. It's meaningful relationships. And when you help someone with a product that's life changing and life altering, at the same time, when you give them an opportunity, to truly, truly see, this is a new opportunity for me. Like, this is a new chapter in my life. How many of us need something to believe in as the catalyst for the new chapter?
Yeah.
You know? And it's so interesting to look back and think, what if my dad had decided that he had written the best chapter of his life already? And I even thought he had. And I think at this point, when you humanize it down to the absolute singular level, the cellular level of the every individual on this call, it's really about them deciding that they want to initiate a new chapter in their life. And when we create new information and new economic potential and opportunity, greater certainty in the face of uncertainty, all of those things we've talked about, but it's like the last variable in the formula is when a person has almost a spiritual transcendental experience that says, I want to be more. I want to reach my potential. I want to start writing a new chapter. I want to look back in 5 years and have rich new relationships. And yeah, economics, you bet. So I get really, really excited that that's the old saying, that's when the music in the movie changes and it starts to get really emotional and swelling to me. It's like, this is the moment when the person comes to the clarity and confidence. And you've heard me say it, Alan, it doesn't just happen at ASEA. I'm not even trying to own that as if it's just ASEA. That can happen spiritually in all sorts of different settings in life. But how many of us get on the long straightaway and we start to trade the maybe for the sure thing, and we're just get stuck, and we're just like, I know the sure thing is here. This is what I'm going to do. And the maybe, the super highway of the maybe, they kind of give up. And my dad never did.
Yeah.
He never did. So, my blood pressure goes up in a very good way, um, about what we're talking about, because I think there's such a beautiful opportunity to rethink your life, rethink what your chapter is. The only meaningful thing in ASEA having a next chapter is if you have a next chapter. Think about it. Like, the corporation as a broad collective, it's not, it's people. It's individual units and people working collectively to a common shared vision. And when individuals have a belief and a conviction that I can write a new chapter, ASEA will write its next chapter. Like, it doesn't work the other way around. All we're trying to do is create all the conditions for you to rethink your life and say, what's the next chapter for me in 2026?
I think there's a lot of people on this call that are ready to start their next chapter. It's interesting. It's in January, New Year's resolutions, and everybody's thinking about, what they want to accomplish. And I think there's a lot of new chapters are going to be written here.
That's
Tyler, I want to go. There's still a couple of things I'd love to tell. If you're good for another few
Yeah, I'm
minutes,
great. Yeah, I'm
um,
great.
uh, you talk. I talked about these five elements: the product, the people, the plan, positioning or timing, and partners. The people. Um, Again, these are all like combination locks. And I've said this publicly on calls. Um, I am. I'm very grateful to serve as chairman of the advisory council. I work closely with Jerem and some of the other corporate team. And, I've been around this corporate team for 16 years. And with no disrespect to previous corporate teams, I will say that in my view, we have the strongest corporate team that we have ever had in ASEA,
Mm.
ever.
Yeah.
And it's like the last few pieces of the puzzle are being put in place. Could you maybe share your perspective on that? And
Yeah. I think I want to affirm with and punctuate with an exclamation mark what you just said. I see it from a vantage point that's unique. Ty Tolman is a man of deep integrity. He is an ethos aligned leader. He has a cultural resonance. He is aligned, and that matters so much in this space. But in addition to that, unusual singular talent, the kind of talent, and again, to your comment, I don't mean to subtract from those that have contributed in the past, but I will say this: if we've never had an opportunity quite the way this has been optimized and represented that's coming, we've never had a team on the sales and marketing side in particular, with Wendy and Ty working collaboratively and all the people and talent they've assembled. We've never had that degree of talent with such depth regionally and around the world, including into Asia and all around the world. These are deep, deep, like decades long, really talented and capable people. And frankly, when the cultural alignment happens with that kind of talent, married with aligned and optimized incentives and prevailing sustainable advantage in our product stack, you're in a really beautiful spot. And you're right to call that out. But in a way, that's the chapter, the next chapter we want to write so that each of you can rewrite your next chapters too, right? And it is definitely a new chapter at ASEA as it relates to senior leadership. They're far smarter, better than anyone we've had, and way better and equipped to lead this operationally than I could ever be. I'm just allowed to be a part of the leadership at a strategic level, and then to continue to face the field that I love so much. So
yeah.
we're excited to bring that kind of talent to the table, Alan.
Well, Jerem Webb as our CEO of the last year. I mean, his knowledge of the compensation plan, his knowledge of what drives the entrepreneurial engine of a network marketing company, which we will be calling ASEA ONE here in just a little over 2 weeks. And then the recruitment, as you say, of Ty Tolman and his vast experience. And what's fascinating about Ty is his experience of taking a company kind of as they entered their second chapter. So he's so experienced. He kind of knows what's written in this second chapter. He's read that chapter before with another company, but as you say, still aligned with our principles, with we call, this P over E, this principles and purpose ahead of pure ego and economics.
Yeah.
It's and I put that down to the law of attraction. You are our, we may have our CFO and our CEO, but you are our CCO, our Chief Cultural Officer.
Mhm.
And the truth is, we build a business from the bottom up, but leadership comes from the top down. And it is a credit to you, Tyler. And I know that when you agreed to be part of this with Virtus, you said, only if I can teach culture, only if I can teach ethos. It's not something that once we get to $1 billion company, oh, let's start thinking about culture. No, it has to start with we're a baby little company. And it's a credit to you that you've done that, because I see the law of attraction, whether it's the law of attraction in the CEO that you attract and the head of global revenue that you attract, the sales heads that you attract, or field leaders that are attracted to this. Leadership comes from the top down, and that is a credit to you. And I'm certain I've learned so much, and I'm so grateful to your commitment to ethos and to culture in this company.
I appreciate it, and I want to make sure, and I know it's I don't want to overdo this, but the gratitude that I have for Jerem Webb and Dave Wall and the senior leadership of this company, all the way across the board, um, it's significant. And I think you've called this out in a handful of settings that I've heard you say, where you've said you would be hard pressed to find a chief executive officer in this industry who is so closely involved in and has been in the design and execution of so much of what will affect your lives. You know, a lot of times they're governing the business from a higher level. And I'm so grateful for their leadership and truly credit them
Yeah.
with outstanding, consistent effort. You know, years ago, I wrote on a piece of paper and put in a cubicle in my early career this statement that commitment equals a set of predictable, reliable, and dedicated behavior that separates failure from success. And I wrote it on a wall and I said, I love that. That commitment equals a set of predictable, reliable, and dedicated behaviors that separate failure from success. And predictable, reliable, and dedicated became watchwords for me. Like I was like, I like to work with people that are predictable, reliable, and dedicated. By the way, Alan, I would give you all three of those. Your commitment has been unmatched to ASEA from the beginning. Um, and that's how I feel about Jerem. That's how I feel about Dave. That's how I feel about Kim Larson. That's how I feel about Jeremy and Wendy and Ty, and the list goes on. And I know if they're watching this, sorry if I didn't hit everybody, but it's predictable, reliable, and dedicated behavior that separates failure from success. And that's what commitment is. And we have a deeply committed team. And frankly, when I saw the list of the years that people join this company, it's really humbling. And I'm saying this to every one of you individually. It is very humbling to see, um, all the way back to 2010s, 2011s, 2012s, and frankly, those that joined us today. It is so humbling to think that the unique, irreplaceable value of your time and attention and intention, like think of the rich resource of people's time and people's best effort. It's so humbling. We were talking earlier about how many years we have, multiple decades combined of time and energy. But think of the millions and millions and millions of hours offered as a sacrifice of best self in service of this legacy. And yes, of course, with self interest properly involved, but every time someone shares a product, every time someone references this as a true brand partner, it's an added hour and energy that is so sacred to me. And so it's really a beautiful thing. And I will say the talent we have attracted, and you brought it out well. I just want to add that the talent we've attracted have made it very clear that they are interested and attracted because of the depth of the product, the depth of the culture, and they're all saying this can and should be much bigger and will be. Like
Yeah.
that's what they say to me. They're like, this has everything. And they came from bigger companies and say, we didn't have anything like what you have in terms of all the keys on the piano. And so this will be a fun year because it is a combination lock, and there are some nuances to when that lock hits. But all of the predictable, reliable, and dedicated behaviors that separate failure from success are here. And I think it's going to be an awesome year.
It's an exciting time. Well, Tyler, I guess we could chat all night, but we're going to respect people's time here. We're going a little bit past the top of the hour. I think that's a great place to end it. I do want to say, um, you talked the from the beginning. I referenced the chief cultural officer and this teaching the ethos of ASEA, and there's a great video made of the pillars of ethos, and one of those is gratitude.
Mhm.
And I think there's a lot of people on this call that feel, and you've expressed your gratitude to the corporate team and to the brand partners, but certainly we want to express our gratitude to you and to the Norton family, to sweet Bonnie, your mom,
Mhm.
to your sister and your two brothers, and really just express tremendous gratitude to the Norton family. It would be very easy to take the grab for cash. I don't think you'll mind me mentioning here, you've been offered many times to sell this company, to pull the rug out from under us. I don't know if that's confidential or if I shouldn't have mentioned that, but it's out now. And
It's true.
and it takes strength, it takes moral character, it takes principles to play the legacy game. And I have tremendous gratitude to you and your family for playing that game and for truly partnering with us as your brand partners. So I just want to express my gratitude.
It means a lot, Alan. I speak for everyone on this call and for a host of others. We love and appreciate Alan and Tanya Noble. They've given so much of their unique gifts and talents to this company, and it will be so joyful to rewrite new chapters together. I think we all need to breathe in the optimism of my dad saying, "Not to worry." The optimism that we started with, where I went back and watched all these videos of him, and I just thought, you know what, Dad was singular because he was optimistic. He never took counsel from fear. He moved forward. So not to worry, we're on our track and we're going to make it work. And Alan, you are loved and appreciated. I'm watching the chats and they're blowing up over you. Thank you. What a gratitude. What a wonderful association and community we've established globally. It deserves to be fought for and protected, especially at a time in the world where enmity and disrespect are becoming so prominent. We will be a shining light to people, if nothing else, for a safe harbor to come and be loved and appreciated, respected for who you are and how you are in a place where we're careful with how we treat people. So, love you, Alan. Love all you guys on the call. Thanks for letting me join.
Beautifully said, Tyler. Thank you so much. Have a great evening, everybody, and we'll see you at ASEA One on the 24th of January. Thank you,
See you
Tyler.
guys.
Good night.